In this episode, I'm talking with Dr. Allison Hoffmann, Assistant Vice President of Admissions and Student Success at Northwest Missouri State University. We talk about how they have significantly improved student retention by cultivating a shared student success philosophy across campus, and by using integrated technology to streamline and coordinate student success efforts. But before we dive in, take a moment to subscribe to the show to stay up to date on the latest in data-informed approaches to student success. Welcome to Next Practices, Allison. I am so happy to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. It's great to join you. I'm really excited to talk about our work that we're doing here at Northwest Missouri State.
I am too. Your team is doing some fantastic work. Just to orient our audience a little bit in who you are and the work that you're doing, I'd love to start by just sharing a little bit about your institution. So if you can tell us about Northwest Missouri State University, who it serves, its mission, and then your role as part of that team.
Yeah, definitely. Northwest Missouri State is a regional comprehensive institution in Missouri, as you might know by the name. We serve, students, many from rural backgrounds. However, we have quite a few students as well from our Kansas City area, Omaha, Des Moines, so a little bit larger in terms of that. But we are, within 2 hours of 4 metro cities. And so we do recruit heavily within that 2-hour radius. We have, both undergraduate on-campus students. We have a pretty large population of international students. And really, we've seen increasing enrollment in our online segment as well as our graduate student segment. So we definitely are very focused on our campus, our undergraduate campus community, and the overall student experience here on campus at our Maryville campus. But we also have additional modalities in which, we recruit students, and students are working to earn our credential through Northwest. So my role is Assistant Vice President of Admissions and Student Success. And so, kind of the Chief Enrollment Officer, if you will, but do have a team that works very hard with me with the various segments. We have, our Associate Vice Provost for Graduate Studies, who does great work in the graduate recruitment segment. So it's not me definitely at all. But from, kind of my purview directly, I have the admissions recruitment team, the admissions operations team, so all the processing of apps and that type of thing. As well as financial aid and scholarships, and then our entire student success arm. And for us, student success at Northwest encompasses advising, first-year experience, our orientation programming, academic support, retention efforts, and so on. So kind of broad, but a lot there within our student success arm.
Yeah, and I know from a previous conversation that student success goes even beyond the lines of the specific delineated offices and departments, but it's a big part of your mission that student success is everyone's responsibility across your campus.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I should have mentioned there is our mission. The mission of our institution is to focus on student success, every student, every day. So it is something that all of us that work on campus, our students take a vested interest in that as well, and how they contribute to student success, but our faculty and staff and really all campus stakeholders, that's incredibly important to focus on that mission, and it's central to everything we do.
Yeah, it's a really a beautiful mission, and I know it's one that you share with many institutions, but it can often be more challenging to deliver on that mission than creating that noble mission itself. So to start there, I know that we're all facing challenges, but especially with your purview and enrollment and retention. What are some of the top challenges that your team is working to solve for?
So I think we've always been worried about recruiting students that can be successful at the institution, but it's incredibly even more important these days as we think about the demographics and the number of college-going students declining, and thinking about the ones that you are able to recruit and enroll and ensuring that they're successful at your institution. And so I think institutions really have to look across, the entire student life cycle and across the whole institution and think about all the different things that contribute to student success or contribute to retention and persistence and ultimately graduation or earning your credential at your institution. And so it is very much a campus-wide effort. We can't just do it within the academic arm. It has to, involve our colleagues in student affairs. We have to really think, about residential life and how that plays in, our mental health services, and so on. And so as we kind of designed our philosophy around student success and kind of what we're trying to achieve, we have really tried to think about including as many as possible in that, because again, it's not just the work that my team does. It really has to be a campus-wide effort. And we want everyone to see their part and understand that they do play a really vital role in our student success efforts. So I think that that's, something that we continue to work on and try to bring others in. And we're definitely not perfect. We always have room for improvement, but we're trying to ensure that the students that we do have enroll at Northwest can be successful, and that we have all the things in place to help them be successful. So if they're putting in the effort and working hard, our services and our support will match that. And ultimately the student will achieve success, whatever that might be for them.
Yeah, I know a big part of the work where you started when you really started to embark on this piece of your mission was cultivating a campus-wide student success philosophy to promote holistic support for all students. And I know that we may naturally think, well, surely everyone that's how they're oriented, but I know that it takes some work to get everyone sort of pointing in the same direction. You sharing a little bit about how your institution worked to establish that campus-wide success philosophy?
Yeah, so I think this is something I think is definitely critical to advancing student success efforts, is really thinking about, who all is involved. What does the student journey look like at your institution? And so we have been, I'm going to say, on a journey of student success for quite some time. However, as we thought about it, we were, kind of getting ready to move into maybe the second iterative, we're kind of just trying to continue advancing the work that we were doing. We realized it couldn't just be advising, right? I think a lot of people kind of start like advising as a center part of it. And I definitely agree that advising is a very critical piece. But the registrar's office has a lot of touch points with students. Our student account services team, in terms of balances and billing, they have a lot of, interaction and touch points with students. And we really needed kind of a philosophy to bring it all together so we could truly see what our students were experiencing and, what was it that they were getting from a messaging or a communication standpoint from student account services, or how are the holds that they have on their account impacting, their ability to continue on. And so our goal was to bring it really all together so that if I'm a faculty advisor, I can look within our technology platforms and I can see all of the things that are going on with a student. But also if I'm a student account services team or I'm the registrar and a student calls in, I can see those different touch points that the student's having and maybe see some different notes and information on that student. Of course, that's by rule and responsibility. So not everyone gets everything about every student, but it gives me more of a clear picture about exactly what's happening with a student and all the things that might be factoring into maybe their academic performance or maybe their decision not to enroll again or, whatever it might be. So we definitely took more of a campus-wide kind of approach or philosophy to that. One way that we did that was there was, a team of us that kind of worked together on that. But we also had the support of our provost and our CFO in that philosophy. And so as we thought about our technology advancements and what we were going to do for that kind of more advanced student success approach that we were taking, we involved our information technology team. We involved our IR team. We involved, our registrar, our advising, student account services. We involved a lot of different people to try to see how we could bring as much of it together as possible to really get a clear picture of that student journey.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true, because students see the institution as one unified experience, but we internally see it as our separate departments. And so when a student is thinking about this from the perspective of how a student moves through an institution and all the touch points that the student may have, there's so many opportunities to connect, and knitting that all together can be really powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I would always use the example. So I started as a faculty member in the School of Business, and I was always very passionate about advising, and it kind of led me on a path to the role and where I am now. And for 10 years as a faculty member with 200 plus advisees, I never used Banner or anything I didn't even know how to do that. So I was using various different systems and platforms, but I definitely maybe it was more difficult to get all the information about a student. So when I think about what we have now on our campus with our technology platform for student success, and again, powered by some of the great tools you have at Civitas, we're able now to see so much about what's going on with a student in one screen or on one student profile page. And we can look at, how they're performing in their classes. We can see notes. We can see if they have holds. We can see their academic planning, like where they're headed down the future and so on. And so just the thought of being able to kind of think about the evolution of where we were even, 15, 16 years ago when I started to now, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I want to get a little bit more, dive into that piece of the work a little bit more. So the first step is kind of getting everyone pointing in the same direction, like creating a campus-wide philosophy, culture of student success. And then the next step is, okay, now what do we do with that? What are some of the strategies, tactics, policies that you are using, the kind of combination of those things that you're using that you find are making a really big difference for your students, but also for your staff and institution as a whole?
Yeah. So I think, again, as we've evolved, we've thought about what is it that you need to get the whole student picture. Okay. So we thought about if we're going to have this student information, it'd be really nice to understand why they can't register, what holds they have on their account, and what that means. It'd also be really nice to know, have they applied for graduation? Is that something they need to do? So we thought a lot about what is the information that we need to best serve a student. So if I'm an advisor, whether I'm a faculty advisor, professional advisor, or a department chair, what do I need to know or see about a student in order to help them be successful? I think that's one piece of it, to kind of streamline things from that advising perspective and try not to have to use multiple systems. I'm not going to say we're perfect on that. I think there's so many different technology platforms out there, and you do have to do some toggling, from here or there between different systems to see things. But we want to try to make it as easy as possible. We also, to your point that you made earlier, understand that a student doesn't want to tell their story a million different times. They assume that people know what's happening with them or what's going on, and that we're all here to serve the student. Just like if I'm a patient at the doctor's office and I go in, I know that the doctor has my last test results and can see, and knows what has been ordered for me next or whatever it might be. Our students, that's kind of our society today, is that and you have the information, and that we're trying to help students, in a comprehensive approach, or kind of our efforts are going to be to help them with whatever it is that they need help with at that point in time. So, I think that's one other thing that we've tried to think about it from that approach too, as we think about the future and what the expectations of students are today and what they'll be in the future. And we're trying to make sure that we're best prepared for that. So I think, having all that information in one spot's been really handy. I also think the next, or where we're headed, has to do with the academic planning. We've always had academic plans for students, but we want them to be in a location where both the student and the advisor can view that plan. They can make changes or notes within that plan as they're meeting, and it's kind of a spot to go and look and find that. It's great that you can also see what's been moved around. So if you have a plan, you've created a plan with the student, and they leave and they've made a bunch of changes to that plan, they can send their advisor an email to say, hey, I made a few changes to this. Does this still make sense? And maybe the advisor will say, no, there's prereqs here. You can't do this. We have to do this in a different order. But it gives everyone kind of that spot to go back to. And so that's something that we're working on now. And it's kind of that future, plans is having all students have that plan and are using that plan. We have started that with our students that just came in the fall. And we're continuing to roll it out with each set of students that comes in behind them. And so we're really excited about those efforts. But then to take that plan, and the student can actually click schedule or register right from that plan is super nice, because then as you're having that meeting with the advisor, you're setting up kind of what it looks like and what it means for your graduation plan, and shift and move things around. And just being able to go and enroll from that is a really great feature too.
Yeah, I find that often I in my previous life, I facilitated a lot of academic planning, and it could be a bit challenging and overwhelming for students. So I think having a interface where they can easily build something out, but then also have guidance from an advisor to check in and say, hey, am I doing this right? That can be really helpful. Building, of course, from templates or different kinds of support can be really helpful. But I think having students be an active part, we found in some findings in a report that we did, an impact analysis that we did last year across our institutions, was that when students are involved in the academic planning, there is a lift in persistence because we just have more awareness and it's fostering relationship with their advisors. So I know that can be a really, really powerful tool.
Yeah, definitely. I also think that as we talked about earlier with, maybe the public perception of higher ed and more people questioning the value of higher ed. And, we see more and more parents that are asking right off the bat. And of course, I'm talking about the traditional learners here when I say parents, but those, coming in right after high school is, will my student have a plan? How quickly am I going to get through this? Or how quickly are they going to get through this? We don't want to have wasted credits and those types of things. So we talk about our planning efforts within our orientation programming before students even come, to make sure that parents and families and our students are aware that this is a tool that we have for them, and that we'll be continuing to kind of update that in an effort to ensure that they remain on plan and they can graduate, in a timely manner. Of course, that depends what the student's goals are and a lot of different factors. But I think we also try to talk with that relationship piece, as you mentioned, is really key. The plan can often help you, get and form a stronger relationship or connection as well, because you're talking about various things. It might lead to, no summer classes. I've got an internship, or my family's traveling this summer, or I have to work all summer to pay for school, or whatever that might mean. And so I think, the planning conversation is important to forming that advisor-advisee relationship as well.
Yeah. It's really interesting what you're sharing. It's kind of coalescing around kind of two themes that I'm seeing. One, it's just streamlining workflow and process for staff and also students, and making these things easy and kind of removing barriers to being able to do this kind of work. And then the other hand, it's about having really clear access to information and being able to communicate to ease that cross-functional collaboration and facilitation of that culture of student support. That way we all really are providing a united network of care for the students, and that the students understand too that we have access to their information, and we know who they are, and kind of saving them that cumbersome experience of being bounced around campus shopping for answers and looking for information that they need. Which I think can be really powerful. Can you talk about how the systems that you're using are facilitating that streamlining of workflows, that cross-functional communication and collaboration? Have you seen that kind of starting to manifest itself since making these adjustments in the day-to-day work of supporting students?
Yeah. So I think in our previous, when we started kind of our student success efforts and had our first, I'm going to call it student success technology initially, there were some really positive things about it. But again, there were some things that we knew were missing. And so as we thought about, the future of it, we were looking for additional, opportunities, being able to customize and pull in some of the data that we wanted that was important to our campus community. And we know that differs really from institution to institution. But we were also very intentional to create some things that we knew would get people in the system and using the system. And so, when we started initially, I think since we have a lot of different listeners who are at different points of maybe their student success journey, we started pretty simple. What do we want people to do in the system? Well, we want all students to be able to make an appointment with a faculty or staff member. We want them to be able to just do that, schedule that appointment, and know that they can meet that, faculty, staff, whoever it was, either in person or on Zoom, whatever the modality is, set up that way. We really want our advisors to make notes about the meetings with their advisees, or even, put in things about their plan or whatever that might be. Those were kind of some initial goals, right? We just want people doing those types of things. What we found, though, was some of the features were really helped to get people using the system. For example, the fact that you can email all of your advisees within the system and it makes an automatic advising note. Well, that's really nice because now you reached out to all of your advisees about upcoming deadlines or dates or applying to the school of whatever it might be or whatever you need to do. And then it creates an automatic advising note. So you're not asking people to duplicate their work. You're allowing, them to do the work and then have it be a note on that student record. So yes, we know we've reached out about that student's academic standing, or yes, we know we've reached out to them about an alert or a past due balance or, whatever it might be. So those are great features that I think helped streamline some of the work. But we also thought about what are processes that we currently have outside of the system that we could potentially bring into the system with the data that we have available in the system. And so we had our advisors, we have what we call an advisor graduation check. When a student reaches 90 hours, an undergraduate student, we want them to do a check of their records, say, hey, here's what they have left. This is, you need more upper division hours, you need this, you need that. It's kind of a precursor to say, the student's getting semi-close to graduation. What do we need to make sure that they complete so that they officially graduate for our institution? And our registrar's office was wonderful in bringing that into the system, into our Civitas platform. We call Northwest Success 360 here at Northwest Missouri State. And so we brought that process in-house. So we know that the advisor is looking at the student's record. If they can go ahead and do that advisor graduation check there, and our registrar's team can just look for that advisor graduation check there, then we have a better idea of who's done that, who hasn't done that, again, what that student needs, and so on. And so I really can't reiterate enough how important it is to have, champions from various offices too in the work. Our registrar has been amazing. Her team and our previous advising software didn't really use it much. I mean, they might look at a few things. Now they're logging interactions and notes in there with students. They're emailing. They're doing various processes. She does all of her graduation notes and whatnot in there, and our team is very involved. And so it truly does give us a picture of what's happening all over campus. And then when we have a student that might call in and ask a question about something, it's very easy for me to look in the system and say, yep, they've already talked with the registrar's office and this and this, and, make sure that we're sharing the same information and make sure that we understand what it is that the student is seeking or how we might be able to assist.
Yeah, it's a game changer in facilitating how folks are able to work together and provide a united, coordinated effort so that the student is moving seamlessly through the institutional processes. The fact that your registrar's office is using it so heavily, it's quite remarkable, and I'm sure it saves time. And I'm sure too, like interactions like you were saying that maybe weren't happening as easily, like that collaboration between a registrar and the advising team. Maybe before that would have been something that would have been nice to have, but got missed because of capacity or ability to do it, was more cumbersome to do it. Now is available because you have a shared system that folks can really easily enter and cross-pollinate information. Yeah, that's really powerful.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a game changer, and I by no means want to say that we're perfect in the way we do everything, and we have, a lot of other goals and want to continue to improve and, find opportunities to better use all of our tools. But we've definitely made some good strides and advancements. And I think that's really speaks volumes to the colleagues that we have around campus and the focus on student success.
Well, what kinds of strides and outcomes are you seeing since doing this work that you're really excited about?
Yeah. So, I think since we started we did a lot of student success work prior to 2017. So I want to preface by saying I'm just going to speak about my time because I kind of started leading our one of our comprehensive student success efforts which was to roll out first year advising, or professional advising across, our campus community, and also creation of our academic success and retention areas, bringing it all together, our student success arm kind of all together. And so there's been a number of things that have factored into that. I think definitely technology and using advising and student success technology is one of them. We've also shifted some scholarship models. We've, added staff and areas of focus. But we definitely saw, retention efforts, our retention rates increase with that. We are continuing to, as we're seeing shifts in students, we're having to kind of monitor and what else do we need to do and how do we need to, kind of change things as we move through. But the retention efforts, is definitely one of those positives. I think, though, as we think about the future, that's where I'm most excited about the efforts. And of course, I don't have specific data on this yet, but with academic planning and rolling out academic planning. And then how does that help with graduation rates? Because, graduation rate is such a lagging indicator. It's, very difficult. We're just getting ready to see our graduation rate from our 2017 cohort coming up, since it's a 6-year lag. And so we're excited to see how, I think we've seen some retention increases, we've seen some persistence increases, but we hopefully it will ultimately pay off with graduation and more students earning a credential from our institution as well. So I think academic planning contributes to that. I think, the enhancements that we've made with bringing on the registrar and bringing on some of these other areas, those have happened in the last few years. And so again, we're not seeing graduation rate. We don't have that data yet, but we're excited about those efforts. And then I think the other piece I just want to mention too, I probably haven't given them enough focus yet, but our institutional research team has been important in our student success efforts, as has our IT team, in making sure that we can connect all these pieces of software and that our data is flowing in from our beginner system, our student information system, into our Civitas tools and so on. But our institutional research team has done a lot of work on the initiative analysis, and that's something that we picked up in this last year. They've really taken that and they are analyzing a lot of different things to give us an idea on, exactly which of our activities are really contributing to retention and persistence. They're also doing it in a manner, though, where we have good conversations around it. For example, if you have a program that's heavily serving first generation and low income students, right off the bat, some might say, well, it's going to be hard to show a persistence and retention lift there. That's a group of students that if we can figure out how to retain, that's great for our institution. That's what all institutions are trying to do, is, to increase first generation retention and persistence and, students from low income backgrounds and so on. But they're having conversations just around, just because it doesn't show necessarily a big retention or persistence lift, hey, if we didn't have this, what would it be though? It would maybe be a lot less than that. So they're doing a lot of education just around the data that we do have, how important it is to be involved in a student organization, how does Greek life contribute to persistence and retention, and so on. And so they're doing a lot of really great work there. And so I think that that's another thing that has really come on while we've been kind of going for a few years in the advising side of it. Now we're moving into academic planning with my teams working on that. But we also have our institutional research team focusing a lot on that initiative analysis and being able to showcase the results from that to other leaders on campus too.
Yeah, understanding if you're taking a really multifaceted approach, right? So it's making sure that you have the holistic coordinated support for students, making sure that you're removing barriers to academic progress and academic performance, and then also having a clear understanding of the impact of the initiative that you are implementing, not just generally across the student population, but being able to dial in and to know, like, how are these different initiatives supporting different populations of students? And then that often, I think, leads to, like, how do we better connect those particular students benefiting most from those interventions to those interventions, because I know that can sometimes be tricky, but also where can we allocate more resources? Where can we invest more humans to help to make sure that we have the resources that are effective and that are working? It's really testament to the comprehensive and really intentional strategic approach that y'all are taking and that you're kind of getting at a wide range of things that influence retention and completion at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think, and really the sky's the limit. I think that's the thing that's both challenging and really exciting at the same time is, we could have multiple people doing this work all the time and looking at all this data and, all of that. We are doing a lot of that work, but there's always more work that can be done, or we can look at it differently. Okay, we want to look at this population of student and how many times did they attend tutoring and what was the impact on that? And so very thankful to have our partners in institutional research and, others across campus that are looking and using different pieces of the tools and then really trying to come together and paint just the true picture of student success and what our retention, persistence, and graduation efforts here at Northwest look like.
Yeah, sometimes too, that's a really important point, that being able to do that analysis allows you to also advocate for more resources, tell your story to stakeholders across your campus who may not necessarily be in the day-to-day work and not be as knowledgeable about the impact of student success. I think I've also seen partners advocate for more resources or more funding using those efforts. That can be really powerful. We've covered a lot of ground because you guys are doing so much good work. But if you want to leave room for any other lessons learned that you would want to share with other leaders in similar situations or other things that we didn't get a chance to cover in our conversation up until this point.
Yeah, so I think we have covered a lot of information. I would definitely just encourage those listening or, those watching along here to really think big about what you hope to accomplish, because, I think that it's very easy to get going and doing the day-to-day work that you've always done and say, okay, we're doing this. It's going pretty well. Let's make a little minor tweak here or there. And that doesn't mean to go and, reinvent the wheel and think you have to start over and do everything, throw everything out either. But I do think it's important that as student success practitioners or whomever watches this and reviews this, they really think about what would it look like in a perfect world and how do we get there? We probably can't do everything. So what are some things that we can do? And I think that has been really helpful for us. Was, initially, what can we accomplish on our own internally within the areas maybe that I oversee, but it's so much larger than that. So if you're truly going to make the impact that you want to and really see the retention, persistence, completion, lists that you hope for at an institution, who are the key players? How do you involve them? How can they find value in this work? How can it help them? Maybe it's something as easy as, hey, we don't have a campus-wide texting platform, but we do within this tool that we're using. So, hey, if I'm student account services and I've called and emailed and no one has picked up my phone call and no one has answered my email, but I know everyone has their phone with them, that's something that maybe was not available before. And so again, it's how do you bring these others into your work? And also have it create value for them as well, because it's not just about me or my team. It's about ultimately we're all in it for the students, and we're all in it to serve the students that are here at our institution and want to see them be successful, whatever that success looks like for them. And so I think it is about dreaming big, seeing who can be a key player in your work, how to bring them in, and really trying to work together on all that. And I think you mentioned the strategic approach. I think the philosophy and kind of going into the project or the work with a common philosophy is good, helps bring others on board and creates that buy-in. But I think it's never really done. The work is never done. And again, that's the challenge, but also the exciting piece is that there's always more we can do, and there's always other things to accomplish.
Yeah, there really are. There's so many opportunities, and I think once you start to get into this way of doing, you can continue to iterate and refine and to add in and evolve your approach, which is really exciting. Is there something? I know I thought that was the last question. I have one more, because based on what you said, and then we'll wrap it up. But is there something that you're excited about that's on the horizon, or that's an opportunity that your team is starting to explore that you're able to share?
Yeah, so I think I'm super excited about the academic planning component, which I talked a little bit about. We are doing that within our first and second year advising team, but I'm excited to see that roll out and continue campus wide. And so that's kind of one of our goals for this year is to, we're finishing training our faculty departments and our faculty advisors on that academic planning feature, and then kind of bringing that all together. Ultimately, it's going to provide, if we get everyone using Academic Planner, it's going to provide some really great data and insights as well about the courses that are needed, kind of the demand for those courses, student preferences, how many students are planning to graduate at this time or that time. And so we know that the data is only good as what you're using. So we need everyone using the academic planning piece. And I think we've made some good initial strides, but really excited to see that kind of carry out, because that was one of the pieces as we thought about the future of our student success work, from where we were just kind of using an advising platform to thinking about where do we want to go. It was bringing in that planning piece, bringing in that scheduling piece within the advising notes and kind of that overall true picture. So very excited about that work and that effort. And it's good to see it come to fruition because we've been talking about it for quite some time.
Yeah. Well, thank you for answering that one last sneaky question. I really appreciate it, Allison. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was very nice to join you. And I look forward to connecting with anyone else who's listening or watching.